So, hi everyone. This is podcast number four for Business Bold, Bold in Business and Life. And here we have a very special, extra special brother from another mother, Kalpesh Patel. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, my pleasure. How you doing, buddy?
Listen, last time you and I were camera side together was probably December 2019 or early 2020, all before COVID kicked off.
COVID. Yeah, before COVID. Yeah.
Been a, it's,
In the basement.
it's been a minute, hasn't it?
It has. We're in the basement of
The dungeon.
your shop. That was a
Yeah.
while ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Years.
long time ago. So Kalpesh is we met in 1997. I think it was around September or maybe earlier than that, but that's what I seem to remember. We dated sisters for a while.
We did.
We've been on holidays. We've been on stag weekends. One, namely your stag weekend, and came back. You didn't get married. He was one of my best men at my wedding. He organised the stag.
It was
You
yours,
messed
didn't
that
I?
up as well. You messed that up. Well, what happened was I just he says to me, I said, Cabs, I want you to organise the stag. He goes, where are we going? I said, I don't know. Should we go Barcelona? Yeah, let's go Barcelona. So he goes, what's the budget per ticket? I said, I don't know. Aim for, I can't remember. I gave you a price. Anyway, so you went off, right? You come back. He goes, right, I've got some good news and bad news. It's all booked, 50 quid a head. I went, wow, this is amazing. What's the bad news? Okay. He goes, we're going via Munich.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh
But
my
that made
God.
it special, didn't it?
It made it. It was amazing because we just all talked and drank a few beers and then the other thing I remember about the stag weekend in Barcelona, right? There were some football fans. You remember? We gotta
Yeah.
go new camp, right? And we're like, all right, we'll go new camp. Me and you know, not really into football. So we get there. We're there what? 10 minutes,
5 minutes. Yeah. We walked in, sat down, looked around.
and
Everyone
then
else is getting into it.
really into it. And then Capish like I look at it like, yeah, we get it. That guy kicks it to him. The other guy kicks it. I want to get it in the net. We got it. See you later. And we left.
We did.
People say to me, "You've
We
been at
actually
new
had to
camp." I
see
goes,
the
"Yeah, about
stadium.
5 minutes."
Spectacular. The stadium was spectacular. That was beautiful to see the size of that event. But yeah, we weren't into the next 90 minutes weren't for us.
No, it wasn't for us at all. So Kalpesh and I have been through quite a few adventures together. He was over here last summer. We had some time in the summer, which was fantastic. But listen, this is a business podcast. I mean, it is a business and life. And I think sometimes people ask me, Caps, are you a life coach? I say it's all life. You know, your business occurs in your life, your relationships in your life.
People get that. I think we're one of the few that get it, but most people kind of have everything in boxes. And for me, it's like all of it. You know what I mean? Like if you can get the best out of all of it, squeeze the most out of all of it, that's where it's most fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think if you have a breakthrough in any area of your life, and we always say, so you have breakthrough in communication, well, that's
In
going to be better. It makes everything float a bit better, doesn't it? So
Absolutely.
one of the things that I'm encouraging people to talk about and get into is what you're thinking about now. What are you looking at when you look at the world? You know, and I think we're more connected to world events in a way that maybe generations before us never had that insight. And how that affects like how the global events and agendas hit us on the shore in our life, you know, like affect our businesses. How I know a lot of business owners I've spoken to recently have said things have got a lot harder since COVID. Things have got a lot harder, especially in the UK since we left Europe in the UK. And so, you know, I don't know where you want to jump into that, but you know, what's on your mind, Caps?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's easy to take for granted just how robust people like us are. And when I say people like us, I'm talking about entrepreneurs mainly, people that are in business for themselves, people that are on the creative and cutting edge of delivering something, right? Like when you're doing it for yourself, it's already tough. Most people don't get that because they're just watching us and they're seeing the results or they're seeing the output, they're seeing what surfaces, but they don't see what's under the surface of the life of an entrepreneur, the life of a business person. And so oftentimes I'm guilty of it massively. But yeah, taking for granted just how robust and tough we are because we have no choice. We have to stay on top of whatever's going on. We've got to stay relevant. We've got to stay like, a step ahead. Because otherwise, you very quickly, and today more than ever, you very quickly sink, don't you?
Well, they say, I mean, the other thing is if you hold a point of view for too long, it's no longer relevant. So how do you stay relevant? I mean,
And
that's,
more, right? Yeah,
yeah,
the speed of, the speed of change of everything is so extraordinary compared to any other generation before us. We're that generation. I'm so blessed as well. I always count my blessings for that. And I know you do too, that we were born in a generation that had a glimpse of the past. And I
mm,
call it the past because it just doesn't exist anymore. But
no,
we're that last generation that can relate to any generation above us in the form of, playing out late at night and
oh,
grazing your elbows and your knees, falling over, not worrying about it, eating dirt, climbing trees, doing all the stuff that people did for hundreds of years, if not maybe thousands of years before us. And
yeah.
then suddenly all of that's dropped off of a cliff in the last 30, 40 years, all of it. So our first 10, 15 years of our life was it.
Mm.
There's a handful after us that caught maybe a little bit of the back end of it. But after that, anyone that's on the planet, more than half the planet today, has got no relationship to us at all. No relationship to what we've experienced, what life was like for us.
Look, and I kind of feel like we're straight in, aren't we? And this is what I say to people: is like we are pre-digital humans. We had to get
No,
up to change the channel, didn't we?
yeah. Do you remember that? Well, we had to get up
Well,
to
your
change
dad
the
would
channel.
say, "Go change it." Hey,
Yeah, correct. And then the remote control came. So then we had to get up and find the remote control for dad.
where did we put the remote? And you start looking for. I remember my dad banging the telly.
Tell me about, yeah, I remember that moving, trying to move the aerial around, trying to get it tuned in, banging it like that. All of that. Exactly.
You know, and I've said this for
Easy on our
I've said
now
this
on our
I've said this for a while, Caps. I think the best decade in human history was the 1970s,
the one that we grew up in.
the one we
The
grew up,
last
the last
that
of
last
the last of it. And I know we probably to some people we say like two old farts and things
we,
like my
no,
day and all that stuff.
we are because look, here's the thing, right? Like when we grew up, every kid thinks their parents are dinosaurs
Mm,
and they think their grandparents are mega dinosaurs, right? That's normal. We did the same,
mm,
but they weren't. They were the same. They were our parents and their parents and everyone before were just a little bit ahead of where we were, and eventually you morphed into that because
mm,
life was the same. But in our case, we are dinosaurs because our generations below us, they don't live in our world that lived for hundreds of years or thousands of years before them. So we actually are dinosaurs.
mm,
We are the last of the we're done. We're once we go, that whole race of human uh, being is done, finished. There's no more. I mean, I'm making that point because I think a lot of people don't get it.
mm.
We're it. Whoever's in their 50s, the ones that were born in the 60s, late 60s, grew up in the 70s, that's us, done. We've got what, maybe another couple of decades left? Maybe three if we're lucky, maybe if AI and science and everything gets really accelerated, maybe 4 or 5 decades. But it's a big transition. It's thousands of years, a little blip in history, bang, us, and then done. A whole different world emerges.
Wow. I
We're
have
it.
I have to concur. I mean, just if we look at say physical fitness and health, I mean, we were out running around playing football, climbing. I used to climb on the roof of the school when I was a kid.
Right? We're that last generation that had all of that. We fell off trees and grew up on the streets and interacted with people. And now we interact with screens and we get we're mollycoddled, if you like, and everyone's guilty of it. We mollycoddle the next generation into because it's a bit rough on the streets than when we grew up. Maybe we shouldn't be hanging around too late because there's more danger on the streets today than there was when we grew up. I'd go with that to certainly in certain places like London for sure.
Yeah.
The number of robberies on the streets on a daily basis, the number of houses that are getting broken into, cars getting stolen, all of those numbers have gone through the roof in the last decade. So I get that there's a different environment out there. But yeah, we were lucky that our level of roughness was if you got into a disagreement with someone, some fists were exchanged, and then you kind of got on with it again, didn't you? Whereas now
You went home without your
it's
ball.
evolved. Yeah, it's
You went home without.
today.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I said you went home without your ball.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly that. Now, unfortunately, I get that it's a different way of interacting. But look, my earlier point that I was making is that I think it's really important what you're doing here today is collecting that in this conversation. I'm saying not the channel, but certainly in this conversation, we're collecting memories that are eternal because of this kind of documentation of it. But otherwise, they're gone, aren't they? It's done, right? I often think about my dad and my grandparents. They didn't document very much at all. A couple of photographs here and there once in a while at weddings or whatever, and that was it. And there's no, you know, my dad passed away when he was 51,
Mm.
and his memory lives in me and will till I die. But there's no existence of my father's life on the planet. So whereas, again, I'll say this, all the generations before us, they passed something on to us, didn't they?
Yeah.
Growing up, there was a ton of passing on, like the baton was passed on that this is how life works. Here's the best way to get through this, and this. There's a lot of knowledge exchange that was valuable.
Mm.
Today, the knowledge exchange is changing so fast that I don't know how much value if we brought all that old stuff in. It adds to a young person's life because they're going, we don't play on the streets. We don't climb trees. We don't eat dirt. We're scared of getting sick in case we breathe the bad air in. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've got more allergies than ever. They've got more illnesses than ever. They run out of energy faster than ever. There's all of that stuff going on. They're looking at it going, what do you mean you can run around for 18 hours a day in a business, 7 days a week? How does that even work? And that's what we did. I had my own business at 19 and I was doing 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And tiredness was, I'd go clubbing and partying after that with my mates. And there was no conversation of, uh, you know, being drained or tired or knackered. And I think these devices probably knock us out a lot more
Mm.
than we think or we realize yet still.
Well, I mean, what I see, but I mean, just to add to that is I think these, I mean, they're called a device for probably a reason. So they're dividing us at a level because we're experiencing the world in a very
You're
personal,
choppy again, okay?
uh, we're experiencing world in a very personalized, customized level because what you might be looking at on your phone and engaging with and looking at and occupied with could be very different to the person sitting next to you. And I've been in a room where there's a few, like under 12, 13s, and they're sitting in a room and they're all on a device. And they're not even in the room with each other. They're off wherever they are in the metaverse, you know? And I think that's got to be doing some damage. I mean, not some. I'd assert probably a lot of damage to the human condition.
I remember growing up, we would hear things like, and then after I grew up, I studied and learned it was true. We'd hear things like, you know, don't spend too much time watching horror movies, for example. Like parents try and protect you from that kind of input because it affects how you then go to sleep, whether you sleep well or not. It affects your dreams. It affects your being, right? Like what goes in affects us. Um, then I got into the world of self-awareness, personal development, and found out that there's tons of science to say that what goes in is what is experienced, right? We attract what we most interact with, right? So you kind of self-realize all the input becomes something and then manifests in our experience. And the amount of data that is input into young people's heads today and the speed with which it's input, the brain's got a massive ability for sure to handle stuff, but there's got to be impacts that we won't know until 50 years, like until it's right in there. But you can already see from the new generations anxiety, loneliness,
Mm.
ADHD, all the other
Well,
gazillions of letters of the spectrum
what I hear a lot of
are
young people
all
say that they're
like
socially awkward.
constantly on the rise.
You hear about young people they're socially awkward. They don't know how to interact. Can you imagine that person then goes to a job where there's other people, stand on a stage and talk to people, like we grew up doing. This is part two of a podcast Kalpesh and I started a couple of days ago. Due to bad internet here in North Cyprus, we had to go again. So, Kalps, thank you for taking the time and coming back. How you doing?
Uh, Yeah, good. Really
Yeah,
good. It's my niece's birthday yesterday, so really lovely. Spent the evening going out with family and just having fun. Yeah.
yeah. I remember being in the front of the room and you going to me,
Yeah, speed it up.
get on with it. No, actually, there's a memory that came to mind, and I was thinking about timekeeping and being on time and personal development. And the thing that kind of connected us, actually, I just realized the thing that I didn't do at the beginning of the podcast is actually introduce you and give some background. We'll do that in a second. But one of the things that really stands out for me in 1997, you were my coach for 6 months,
Yeah.
which must have been quite an arduous experience.
It'll be easy for
Given
watching you.
anyone who knows me probably thinks, wow, because you imagine coaching Erkan, bloody hell. But you did, and I remember we were setting up times to speak, and you said like, for example, at 9 o'clock, and I'd say like, how much time do we have between, 9 o'clock, like, how what's the leeway
Right.
time? You went 30 seconds, and I was like 30 seconds. Now I was always a good timekeeper, so it wasn't that, but like, so if you say 9 o'clock by 9 o'clock and 30 seconds. That was it was a minute, which is now doesn't seem much. It seems
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Well, does it?
It's like, yeah, it's like a minute. It's like, come on, get your shit together. You should be like bang on, right? And that was like that sounds in the context of a 6 month. Well, no, it wasn't a 6 month, was it? It was a 9 month leadership program called the
Mm.
Introduction to Landmark Forum Leader. And funny, I just realised that all my guests, no, most of my guests so far are senior graduates at Landmark Education, and that's something we have in common. And so you were the one that kind of broke me into that idea that time and performance and it wasn't about, I don't know, for me what I got, and I'll shut up and let you speak. It was like what you say
Mm.
becomes reality. So whether you say 9 o'clock or 9 o'clock and 30 seconds or 9:15, so where
Mm.
people are always 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, it's
Yeah.
they don't actually deliver on what they said.
Yeah.
So can
And giving power to yourself, right? It's regaining power. It's easy to say nine and turn up at 9:05. It's nothing wrong, and most people do it. But there's power in saying 9 o'clock and showing up at 9. That's all that happens is that you regain power over your word and over yourself, and that's part of that training process, right? So as you say, it sounds now absolutely normal. Like, why would you turn up at 5 past 9, or why would you turn up at a minute past 9? But back then, that would be a big conversation because people don't relate to their
mm,
word as so powerful.
and there's this edict, I suppose, this kind of concept that had you predict the future, you create it.
Create it,
So then
exactly.
if you start building the building blocks of managing your word, and I think integrity at the very basic level is being on time and doing
Yeah,
what you said you're going to do and doing it well. If you
yeah,
get that in place, then you can start building all the other things on top of that.
absolutely. I mean, I often say that, we were taught when we were young as kids by our parents that we're the creators, preservers, and destroyers of everything that we experience in life. And so we get to choose, what do we create, what do we preserve, and what do we destroy? And when you do that consciously, then life suddenly shows up very differently.
Wow. So can you do an introduction for us, Kalpesh? So, because I mean, I was going to do yours. I've done most people's, and I can't do yours. It's just where do where do you start? I mean, obviously,
Can't do mine.
well, you've been a
Done a lot. Yeah,
consummate networker, entrepreneur,
yeah,
speaker. I mean, I've seen you in front of rooms of hundreds, if not more than hundreds of people. You've traveled the world speaking and presenting. Your energy and drive is kind of mysterious to me. It's not
curious to me sometimes.
it's not normal, is it? I mean, by any standards.
I'm blessed, man. You know what? I cannot count my blessings enough. I often say this, that I've lived multiple lives in this very short span on Earth. And I believe I've come here to do damage in the
Well,
best possible way. Like, leave my dent, make my dent, uh,
Some might say a bit greedy. You know, you've had
Well,
a few lifetimes in one hit. You know, like you know, had you hit two birds with one
yeah,
stone. You've hit about a whole bloody a
yeah,
roof.
I'm like that. I want to consume it all. Right? I'm like, my relationship to life, and ever since I was young, it's been like that.
Mm.
I just love the idea of life. I love the idea of it. And I am totally present to, and again, I give all credit to my parents for the way that we were raised and brought up. I'm really present to the value of it and what we can do with it. I'm just present to that, right? And so when I'm not that, when I'm not up to something, when I'm not out there consuming life and giving to life and creating, preserving, destroying, if I'm not doing what's possible, I feel like, what did I do? Like what was the point of today? Why did I come and breathe? Why am I breathing oxygen? For what? We've got so much as human beings, we've got so much, not potential, we've got so much power that we can access instantly. The minute we declare it, the minute we decide to access it, it's there. It's not like it takes time to find it. It's there. It's inherently, we're born. That process is power. We, from, from nothing, we take a breath, and the first breath and the last breath and all the breaths in between count. And as I say, I'm just
Hold on,
really
hold on, hold
lucky
on,
that I'm
hold on, hold on,
present to
hold on,
that
hold on.
more than I'm not present to that.
All the breaths count. Isn't that incredible statement? We don't live like all the breaths count. Like there's
Right?
the breaths and the breaths and there's the breaths. You know, we don't think of those as they count. They're just like we're the reaction of something. And you're saying every breath counts. Every breath counts, and that's a I would call that a posture, or
Yes.
it's a position that you're holding.
Correct. Yeah. So that's kind of the mindset or the attitude that I bring to my life. And when I'm not doing that, I'm very aware of it. And I'm looking at why am I not doing that? Like, here I am. I've got this beautiful gift called life, and I'm being a muppet. I'm sitting there feeling sorry for myself, or I'm sitting there like, just destroying rather than creating, and just mindful of, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do
But,
to
but
make a
that but
difference?
that also gives contrast, doesn't it? And that's an important, pleasure, pain, love, hate,
Yeah.
fear. You know,
Yeah.
it's that's the duality of life, isn't it? Now we need the ups and the downs to give us
It's the nature of it, right?
between. Hey,
It's the nature of it. So it's like if you're conscious of it, you can interrupt it. And if you're not conscious of it, it
it
kind of just consumes you.
yeah.
Life happens to you all the time.
Hmm.
And then consciously, if we want to, we can happen to life
We can
as
have
often as we can,
we can happen to life.
right? Yeah,
I mean, I remember because we've known each other so long, and we've been kind of in and out of each other's lives. I kind of think it was a comet. You kind of come round every, it might be years, and then it might, we see each other for periods that we've spent. I remember being up. Well, I want to share. I want to share a little memory that I've been thinking of. So we're thinking about you over this last few days. Especially, we started the podcast and then took pause. And I thought, what else do I remember about Kalpesh? And I remember we were in Dallas and we were there on a mission of something. I'm not going to go into that. That's not the point. And we went to the cinema and we watched In
yeah,
Pursuit of Happiness. Do
yes.
you remember that?
Yeah, I do, of course. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful moment.
we were both sitting
Shared.
watching In Pursuit of Happiness, crying because
Yeah.
what the character was going through and what he had to, there's a bit where he's with his son and he's sleeping in the toilet.
Yeah. It was perfect that we watched it together as well. Like there was a synergy. There was a moment. That was a moment, wasn't it? Because it wasn't just watching a movie, but both of us could sit there and relate to exactly the journey. And it was like, oh my God, it was that.
Yeah, I mean, do you cry that? I mean, I don't cry often. I don't mean
No,
like I'm a real man. I don't
I,
cry.
I, no, no, no. Look, and I think people like us can relate to this because we live so much of life in such a compressed time frame that we don't waste tears. I don't mean that from an arrogant or a better than perspective, but they're precious. So yeah, when we are moved and the tears come, there's value in those tears. Like even now, I'm welling up at the idea of how precious tears are for me. Like when watch something, experience something, and get to that emotional point of teariness, it's deep. It has to go a lot deeper to generate tears than just turning on the taps because something bad happened or something that you
Or
don't want
yeah,
or
or I
whatever
guess
it might be.
also it's a bit like when you know, if your threshold is here, the tears might come at a lower level. I
Yeah.
don't mean, again, not patronizing in any way,
No.
but you know, for me to like my daughter at my dad's funeral at the wake, I had a little bubble up, as my a
Yeah.
old friend of mine used to say, and my daughter Senna said to me, I've never seen you cry, Dad." I said,
Isn't it
I
funny?
don't really cry that often, and I don't, you know, but there are times when it's right for me. I mean, it's everybody's different. We're all
Well, it's beautiful that you're saying that because, and again, look at the words, the exact same words my youngest niece said to me about a month ago. I was in London and she said something to me, and I was in a very contemplative and sensitive moment. And we just sat at breakfast at the table, and she turned and she goes, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Just like generally, are you okay?" And I couldn't even reply, and I just like tears started welling up, and I literally had to get up off the table and run up the stairs because I don't do cry in front of her, right? And she goes, but she heard me as I was going up that I was like having a bit of a, oh, it came out. And I've never done that for years, like probably decades I've not done that. And she goes, I've never seen you cry. Like she's 26 years old.
yeah.
She goes, I've never seen you cry. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't cry easily. I don't cry for the sake of crying. But, when I do, like people know, okay, something's going on. It's like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
it is.
I was sharing a story with someone. I was out with some friends the other day, and I shared my story when I was traveling through Europe during COVID. You know, the whole world was locked down. I'm traveling
Mm,
through Europe to get to Cyprus, and I got stopped at the border getting into Turkey because they said that basically there was a new variant in England, and we can't let you in. And they'd closed the border 4 hours previous, and we'd made it from the Eurotunnel crossing to Edirne in 30 hours, which is, I mean, it's just, we didn't stop. We just drove and drove and drove. And then the next day, I mean, that night, by the time we finished there, went and found a hotel, slept for a few hours. And then my friend who was with me, Chris Sherlock, who's a complete and utter star, he came with me and he said, look, I can't wait on the border for 10 days. You know, God knows what could happen. I could get locked up. I said, can you drop, let's book a flight and I'll go back. So I drove him to Sofia and back, which was a 6 hour round trip. And the amount of emotional experience I had, the car was causing problems and the border controls, getting out of England was a mission. And I said to this person,
mm,
I just went back and I just cried my eyes out. And she said to me, "Oh, that's so sweet." And I went, I was in dismay. I was wrecked, Kels. I was
mm,
exhausted physically. And you've been in a car for over, what, 48 hours, really. I suppose by the time I got there, I've been moving in the car. Um, and I was broken, mate. I was like,
mm,
there was nothing left in me. And then the next morning, I woke up. The
mm.
car's still there, so it wasn't stolen. Great. And I looked, there was a field next to the hotel. Put my sports stuff off, and I thought, right, I'm going to go running. And I said, no drinking alcohol because I do like a glass of wine. And I had one glass of wine on the last day, on the 10th day before the next day I was going to go, just to celebrate, right? But it was like these walls, these barriers are there
Mm.
to then. Was it someone Joel said the other day on a couple of podcasts? They're not there to get in your way. They are on the way. They're
Yes.
leading the now. Give us an idea. I would like to. One of the things I'd like to make about this podcast that it's not your usual rah rah rah. Build your business, do this. I'm not. We'll talk about that stuff. But when have you? Because I know some of your, you know. But I'd like you to share something that where it demonstrates that where you've kind of hit that wall at 100 miles an hour, get your bearings. What keeps you going?
Yeah. So the wall's been hit many times by the sheer nature of how I live my life. I look for walls, right? Because again, part of the nature of how I've wired myself up that I want to break down any walls that I find in my life so I can expand beyond them. Um, and this one. This is one probably I share it often. It's one of my biggest, and there are many, but I'm whizzing through. But I've got to share the biggest one that I ever overcame, and that was when my father passed away. I was 23 years old. He was 51. He was my hero, my rock. Looked up to him to no end. Incredible human being, a natural leader, um, philosopher, and liver of life. And when he was taken from my life, I all the input that I'd had that was amazing from my parents growing up went in the bin, and I was just left completely destroyed. And when I say completely destroyed, I remember it even now as I'm speaking about it. Whenever I speak about it, I remember it clearly. The day I found out, and then I went to the hospital and the bed was empty.
Mhm.
I'll never forget that moment. My dad wasn't there. He was there in a coma for 30 days before that. So every day I went, he was there, he was there, he was there. And then suddenly that day, he wasn't there. And I fell to the floor. I crashed. I literally crashed as if somebody had taken my skeleton out of my body. My body just collapsed, and I let out the loudest scream and cry and uncontrollable. And I've never had that in any memory. I would have probably as a little kid, but no memory of being in that state. And I thought that was never going to be recoverable at that point in time, and for much after that time. And I spent 3 years looking for, how do I get past this wall? 3 years
So
of
that's not even
hating
like you
on
hit the
everything.
wall. That's like that was like 3 years of that, whatever that
I became the wall.
you became the
I
wall.
merged into it. I hit the wall. Yeah, I hit the wall and I became the wall. So I became a wall. I blocked everything. Like
So
there's nothing
how
you
did
couldn't.
that manifest in your life? How were you, how did life look in that period? So,
So as I was saying, I hit this wall and it feels like I became a wall. And
hmm,
I lived there for 3 years. So my experience at that time, at the age of 23, I had a super successful business, madly in love with my beautiful teenage relationship of 6 years. Life was phenomenal. Everything was just bliss. And suddenly that day, all that bliss turned into hatred, anger, resentment, bitterness, like every difficult situation showed up at once. And when you say I hit the wall, in that particular instance, I feel like I became the wall. And I became a wall for 3 years to life. I became a wall to look, within 6 months, I broke up my relationship for no reason other than I was really difficult to be around. This is a woman that from the age of 17 till 23 was my everyday and my everything. Within 2 years, I bankrupted my business, a business I've been, my entrepreneurial journey started at age 11. At 23, I was in retail. I was building shops. I was opening shops, empty units, turning them into brilliant businesses, selling them on. I was thriving at an insane level at 23. Bankrupt within a couple of years.
wow.
Uh, Pushed myself away from my mum, who was my everything, my brother, who's my everything, all of my friends, my family, cousins. I really just withdrew from everything and blocked everyone out. Nobody could get through to me. And, we live in an extended family. I'm living in this house with my brother, his wife, my mum. And, I'm really, really difficult to be around because I won't let anyone in. I just refused.
So the barriers have gone up.
They couldn't contribute. Nobody could contribute. That's what I'm saying. So when I say I became a wall, literally, I lived like a wall,
Mm.
rocks, stone, whatever you want to call it. Nothing in there, empty, void of anything. Just the hate of. I was like hating the universe. Why? Why my dad? What's all this about? What's the point of everything? All of everything, like really destroyed. And I spent 3 years there, turned to alcohol, and just a mad life for 3 years. And it was actually a seminar that brought life back to me. And a friend of mine invited me to a seminar, very persistent. It turned out to be an opportunity meeting for a home-based business. And it didn't really matter what was said on stage. The pitch didn't matter. The product, the service, the opportunity, all of that went past, just like didn't go past, like I heard it all. But what got me, what woke me up, what entered for the first time in 3 years, something entered me and like a light went on again, was the personal development side of the conversation, and conversations that I relate to, like the In Pursuit of Happiness moment where we shared like relatedness. There was relatedness with the speaker, and he was sharing stuff and it was going straight in. I was like, that's me. That's me. And in that conversation, I was like, here he is in front of thousands of people, got the crowd inspired to no end. Everyone's engaged, everyone's loving it. And here's the reflection. So it's like a reflection, right? Here's that. I used to be like that. And here's me, the reflection of that, the opposite. Completely shut down, disconnected, unresponsive. And he'd been through way more than I had. And I'm sitting there going, who am I to play so small when I've had an amazing 23-year run? I've had the usual that everyone has, but I wasn't abused as a child. I wasn't, homeless, whatever other number of iterations you could have had. Overall, one of the lucky ones. And here I am making no use of life, wasting this beautiful thing called life. And here's somebody else who's been through more and up there smiling, loving it, taking it all in. And that was it. That's all I needed. I needed a little crack in that wall, and the crack appeared and I ripped it open. And I went to the guy at the end of the seminar. I said, listen, first of all, thank you. You've something stirred up. You've woken something up. What do I do now? I said, you've been through all of it, and I've been through my version of it for 3 years, and I haven't found access. I'm like lost in this abyss of crap. And he goes, start reading. And I'm dyslexic. I hate reading. Ever since I was a kid, I hated it. As a kid, when the teachers used to say, okay, read a paragraph at a time each.
Yeah.
My worst nightmare. I'd clam up. I hated it. I couldn't, because everyone else would read it like they were speaking it. And I'd be like, each word. Peter went to Paul and said, right, really like soul destroying for a kid, right? So when he said start reading, my immediate thing was, holy smoke. Like,
Another wall.
Get another wall, right? Buried in my subconscious.
You just cracked it open and boom.
Do you know what I mean? And I said, right. And I was open. I was like, okay, reading what? And he goes, right, there's a couple of books I'm going to tell you about, and that will open up the world. And he talked about Think and Grow Rich and how to win friends and influence people. And I went to Dillon's there were 2 bookshops back then. Dillon's was one of them, Foyles and Dillon's. I went to Dillon's and I said to the lady, can you, I'm looking for these books, Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends. She went, what were they about? And I said, personal development. And she looked at me and she went, you mean self-help? I hadn't even heard of those words. She goes, you mean self-help? And I went, I think so. And she looked at me like there was something wrong with me. And she literally walked me to a corner of the store, massive store, gazillions of books. She walked me to one tiny corner, and there were literally 2 shelves of self-help books. Nothing. Everything else was fiction. Romance, this, that, like no self-aworeness stuff.
Just to give us a bearing, what year was this? Because now obviously everything's changed.
That would be 1990, end of 95.
End of
mid 95.
So 30 years ago. You're going down to Foyles. Self-help. And did you self-help?
Wow, that was it. I found my world. I found my world in those books. And it wasn't long before I was back to the store picking up more books and more books, the road less traveled. And I just fell into this new world, new paradigm, and just was like, I got it. I really got that everything for the previous 3 years and everything before that, the 26 years, like really everything my parents taught me about creation, preservation, destruction, I was it. I did all of it. All of that was me. And I regained power by understanding that I did it all. Like I manifested, I created my experience of all of that, my version of all of that. I couldn't have stopped stuff from happening because that's life. But what I wasn't getting was responsibility. I wasn't getting it. I refused to be responsible for my dad's death. Refused to be responsible for it. And suddenly, bang.
Listen, just look, probably a lot of our audience will kind of get exactly what you mean, but probably I imagine some of them won't get. How can you be responsible for your dad's death? Like I know what you mean, but can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
So what I'll do, I'll start by saying, by not being responsible for my dad's death, like my dad's death happened to me.
You became a victim.
I became a victim of what happened to me. Powerless. When life happens to us, we're powerless because it's not us, is it? That wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that. What the frick?
You can swear on this podcast if you want.
What the fuck? You know what I mean? And 3 years later, it happened, but I owned it.
Yeah.
Like ownership of what happened rather than no. Rather than no, I was like, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
you know what? In the common parlance, responsibility is almost like it's your fault. Like you like it's because of you, your dad died.
right,
No, what you're saying is you're owning the experience, you're owning it
I'm
all.
owning,
Own it.
I own what happens next, which I
Yes.
didn't 3 years ago.
No, no, because you the wall you hit the wall and the wall won. And then
Yeah.
like you said, you
All one.
became the wall.
Yeah,
And
3 years.
what a
Three
lesson, what a
years I lived
lesson.
in that.
And you know what, that also kind of sets out this whole thing about it's about the journey, not the destination. Because without that,
So
you wouldn't be who you are today.
not even a fraction of. I'd be I don't know what I'd be, but one of the most highest possibilities, a very successful businessman.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Living that life, you'd have the car, you'd have the house, you go to
it would have
work.
been nothing. It would have been a completely nothing. Like for me, who I am as after that wall, all of that stuff is look, if it's there, it's great, but it's nothing to do with life.
Hmm.
That's just stuff. And my life would have just been stuff.
But we do see a lot of people, and one of the things I go into businesses, I say, so why am I here? Am I here to help you get another car, a Rolex, another gate? You've got a gated house, you've got the road. What are you looking for? What do you think this is
Exactly.
going to do? Like you're going to get some another branch, another, and then I see this accumulation of materialism, and I don't see joy. I don't see passion. I just see like people
It's a
get
stuff,
trapped
right?
in their own narratives.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that process, I guess, has given me the gift of living the last 30 years full tilt, maxed out, loving it all, loving even the stuff that I want to hate, like embracing it, owning it, the whole thing, right?
Mm.
All of it, not just those bits and then not those bits and then those bits, but just finding myself in it. Like, this is it.
I'd like to
This,
share my story in juxta to your story of your dad passing, if you don't mind. So
yeah,
my
of
dad
course.
passed away on the 10th of December 2024 at the age of 85. So 51, your dad, if I'm right, yeah? 85, my dad. And my experience was completely different. Now, I've also had nearly 30 years of personal development, training, da, da, da. This is where I think the work proves itself, right?
Yeah.
So I remember in 1991, my dad had an episode. We called an ambulance. It was February 91. It was very cold winter, very cold. So the ambulance had trouble getting up our road because we were kind of a little bit rural, not rural, but out of London. And I'd lost my driving license. I got done doing double the speed limit in my Corvette, so I couldn't drive into the hospital and just go, right, I'm taking you. So I had to wait for the ambulance. And then my mum and my brother, and my sister, I think, got in the car and they followed the ambulance, and I was in the ambulance with my dad. And to see your dad looking like because we didn't know what was happening. Was he having a heart attack? Was it a blood pressure issue? We didn't know. And I'm looking at him, and my dad over the years has had quite a few stress related episodes. He struggled to manage his stress. And I'm sitting there, I'm holding his hand, I can't remember, I'm holding his hand, I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, you know what, this could be the day.
Mm.
This could be the day. And this is pre, if you like, I've always been involved with personal development. So I had a self-awareness to be able to see this. So it wasn't like I was maybe where you were. And I thought, you know what, one day it will be the day. Unless I go before, but one day it'll probably be the day. So I'm going to let go of him now. And then every day
Mm.
after today will be a bonus. I'm sitting in the ambulance couch, and I had the awareness to think to myself, one day it will be the day. and I let go of my dad in 1991 in February. I'm sitting in the ambulance with him
Yeah.
in 1991. We're going to the hospital, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me. I could see he was scared, and I thought, one day it will be the day. And on that day in February
Mm.
91, I let go of my dad. Right,
Mm.
I let go of him, and then he died in 2024. So when he died, people said, "Oh, you really?" I said, "No." I was like,
I mean,
I celebrated that my dad lived till the age of 85, that we had all those years together.
you already detached yourself.
Well, did I detach myself? That just doesn't seem to describe what I think it was. I think it was an acceptance of life. Like you said earlier on, that every breath is life. It was like, well, every moment now is bonus rather than there's a loss.
Mm.
Like you said, I lost my dad. I never said I've lost my dad. I don't think of it that I lost my dad. I've had my dad all my life till the age of 56.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the loss? It's like I don't
Yeah.
see a loss. I don't. I at the funeral and the wake, I said to people, look, don't be sad. He had a great life. He lived life. He travelled. We drove to Turkey and Cyprus
It
by car many
is a legend.
times. He had businesses. He had kids and
Yeah.
grandchildren. He had property abroad. He lived. What's there to be? It couldn't have been better. From a little immigrant guy coming from Cyprus in the 50s to England with £5 in his pocket, it couldn't have gone. It
Yeah.
couldn't have gone that much better. And he
Yeah.
lives with me every day. I think I'll do something. I guess my dad. My dad's living in me. I've got his DNA. I've got his mannerisms. I've got. Sometimes people say, "Oh, you look so much like your dad." Right. So he hasn't gone anywhere. I don't. That's
Yeah.
how I feel. You
Absolutely.
know. Yes, the
Yeah.
physical entity, but we know we're much more than our bodies. So for me, it was like.
Absolutely.
It was more like I felt gratitude for, and there were still issues between me and my dad in myself that I thought were resolved, and I'm completing
Mm.
those ongoingly, letting go, forgiving, but no
Yeah.
regrets, no
Yeah.
regrets. I don't feel like we didn't have the time. We did it. We did it all. I spent,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember once we went to Birmingham or Evesham to pick up something when we were in business together and come back, and we argued all the way there and all the way back. Argued. I mean, we argued a lot, right? And then years later, we're in the car and we was talking about the business when we was in business. He goes, you know what? He goes, I know I was arguing with you all the time, but it turns out you were right. I went, thanks, Dad. I fucking told you
Wow.
at the time, didn't I? But I thought, and we had some really difficult times.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
so
Yeah.
that's the spice of life. That's the
Yeah.
variety. And I guess what this program is about, when you live bold and you live full out and you live with courage, life will happen. How you respond or how you choose to recreate the next moment is a choice. They're not always one that's available for everybody, but it is a choice. And I think that to me, that's a testimony of personal development. And that was in 91, I was 21, I think. And I already
Mm.
had a certain level of understanding because of that, because of some of the work I'd done, and also I
Yeah.
was present. And and again, I'm not bigging myself. I'm just saying it's like I think there's the mindset and posture and how we look and relate to the reality that we relate to is
Yeah.
all choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And this, again, somebody listening to this might be thinking, what are you talking about? You know, I didn't choose this life. I didn't choose this where I'm at right now in life. And, it's that. It's the reflection, isn't it? You didn't, and you did. Like you didn't choose it. You're right. And you chose it. You're right. And there's
Vanilla
just different
choose.
experience.
Caps.
Yeah, it's just a different experience.
Vanilla choose.
Yeah, of course.
Cancer choose. Death
Yeah,
of your dad choose.
yeah,
Your body
yeah. And
choose.
that's all it is. That's all it is.
And that's
All
the
it is. Like you don't choose it, and there's an output. You choose it, and there's an output.
yeah.
And the only thing you can do is make your choice.
Mm.
And nobody's saying it's easy,
No.
but once you get that, and if you can practice it to a point where you start choosing in real time, transformation.
Yeah, I mean that's a big distinction. I mean, like traffic, choose. Airplane delay, choose.
Yeah, every
Like,
day, every
yeah,
single day,
and it's freedom.
every day, every conversation, every interaction, every moment. The more you can practice that, the more you own it, therefore you create it, and therefore you can move from a place of power rather than disempowered.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's
Yeah.
not, again, it's not about right, wrong, good, bad. It's nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's just if you can find your way from not choosing life to choosing life, it just shows up. You show up differently. It doesn't show up differently. You show up differently, and therefore it feels like it shows up differently.
Yeah.
So
There's that,
100% love that.
there's the old say, what you resist persists, you know. So if you're not choosing something in your life, and you're not, I guess, maybe to help people, because it's quite,
Fighting against it.
maybe it's a matter of just accepting it the way it is as well, then you can get to choice maybe. So you don't have to go straight from to choosing. You can go, you know what, I can accept whatever that
Yeah,
circumstances or
that's the
whatever.
process.
But the circumstances is always the circumstances. I mean, there's no, what you do
No
with it,
escaping.
choice.
There's no escaping life. It's going to happen to everyone in every which way it possibly can. And it's beautiful to have the choice. It's
Yeah.
beautiful to have a choice.
Yeah.
I just did a 4-day course with Sadhguru. Have you heard of Sadhguru?
Yes.
He's gone very viral in the last few years on Instagram. Really beautiful way with words. And he's one that lives life to the full every day, and he's out there and giving it all he can. And I just did his 4-day inner engineering course, and in there he spoke about all there is now. And in his own way, he was like, choose now, just choose now. He was like, where is the past? It's only in memory. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the past.
No,
And there's no such thing as the future. They don't exist.
they don't exist.
Except for in our head. And he goes, and we know it, but he just said it, it's just a nice, beautiful reminder. He said it so clearly. He goes, most human beings spend their entire life in the past and in the future, which don't exist. So they miss life. Life isn't there. Life is not in your past, and life is not in your future. Life is only right now. That's all. Life's just now. And yet the masses spend no time in their life in life.
Yeah, I agree. And there's something about enjoying that moment. I think the other thing I remember, and one powerful way of being in the present that I use, and I'm sure everybody does if you think about it, is your breath. Because the breath is only in the moment, isn't it? When you breathe, that is right now in the moment.
Yeah. The breath is the one thing, correct. And that's why the whole world of meditation talks about breath. It brings you presence to your life. Because without breath, there's no life anyway. And so,
and one day there'll be the last breath. So we're just saying the power of the breath to get you present and in the moment.
yeah. So we did a lot of breath work, by the way, on the 4-day seminar. A lot of it's about breath to get you present to now. And one of the distinctions that he gave us, which was so beautiful, he was like, this moment is inevitable. And so is this one. And so is this one. That's the only thing that's inevitable, is this moment. And when you really understand that you are not this body and you're not this mind, you're this breath. And you get that this moment is inevitable, whatever it is, then the resistance falls away. It could have been no other way, right? Whatever your life is right now, it is. Just is. Couldn't have been any other way. That's
So,
just
hold on.
exactly how it is.
All this enlightenment counts. All this enlightenment, we come down to it is what it is.
Just it is what it is. And just beautiful. Just a beautiful reminder that we do give ourselves a way harder time about stuff than is ever justifiable, ever. Like ever. I know when you're in it, it feels like you've got to justify it, but there's nothing to there's just nothing to justify. There's just it just is what it is, isn't it? That's it, done.
So
now what?
Audience, this is the message to you. It is what it is.
All the books I've read in the last 30 years in one sentence. It is what it is.
One phrase, it is what it is. It is. Well, listen, I'm gonna say thank you for your time because I think we've had a bit of a broken. Do you know what? I'd love to have you back again. Would that be something you'd be up for?
I'd love to. I would
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
One
Sure,
of
it's
the
been a
things, one,
blast, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
one of the things I'm thinking of is maybe getting a two or three or four of us together and put a subject in the middle and then just, chew it up and
I
see what we
love it.
come up with.
What a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy it. To be honest, I'm getting so much from these podcasts as well already. I'm listening to them myself and thinking, whether it's a reminder or it's a new piece of
And
information, whatever it is, or you just
for
feel,
me too. Yeah, for me too, because how often do people ask you about your life in this way, right? So, just in the last whatever half an hour or whatever it's been, 40 minutes, I've presenced
yeah,
magic.
yeah,
That,
absolutely.
you know
Listen,
what I mean? It's beautiful.
I want to
So
say
thank
thank
you.
you. I want to say thank you. Really appreciate it. By the way, Kalpesh is in Dubai if you haven't worked it out yet. And
Yeah,
I'll do your introduction next time.
yeah,
What
there
a
is.
view, eh? What a view. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic, mate. So
blessed,
listen,
super blessed.
I know you got to get off to your birthday celebrations that you're going to. I want to thank you, and what I'll do is I'll be in touch over the next. I'll get this edited up and out soon, and
I look forward
we'll
to it.
set up a time. And if you also if you think of anyone else that you think would be cool for the show, put them in
Yeah,
touch. I'd love to have them on, and have a. I asked someone the other day, but I don't know what would I say. I said, doesn't matter. We're just going to talk, and what comes comes.
love it,
Lovely. Any last
bro.
words?
Love you heaps. Thank you so much for being in my life, part of my life, part of this journey for 3 decades, just shy of 3 decades, and looking forward to the next three if we're still around.
Lovely. Love you. Take care, mate.
See ya.